Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Govs On The Go, Alumni Edition, a podcast featuring alumni from the College of Arts and Letters here at Austin Peay State University. My name is Dr. Buzz Hoon. I'm the Dean of the College. I'm also the host of the podcast, and today I'm talking with Dan Colón, who graduated with an art degree back in, I believe, 1981. Is that right, Dan?
That's right.
Well, welcome to the podcast. I met you face to face. That was a great pleasure for me, and it's so great to have you on the podcast today.
Well, I am so honored. I am beyond honored.
Well, you certainly are deserving, and we're going to talk about all the ties you have to Austin Peay. But let's give everybody a life update. What's going on? Where are you? What kind of things are happening in your life?
I am currently retired, and I'm enjoying a peaceful life on 4 acres of land. And I've got chickens, I've got ducks, I've got dogs and cats I take care of, and live with a beautiful wife who's very peaceful.
I thought you said you were retired. It sounds like a lot of work there.
Yes, but it's fun. It's like play.
Okay. And you're still producing art? You're still out there? And
I do. I'm doing some sculpting, and I love to draw, and I love to solve problems, even if they're domestic. I love solving problems.
Great. We're gonna explore all the things that have happened to you along the way, but let's begin at the beginning. That's where I always like to start and talk a little bit about the fact that you had shared with me that you were actually born in Germany.
That's right.
And so your dad was in the military.
Yes.
And that meant that you were in another country, but you probably moved around a lot. You ended up in, I think you said Pennsylvania at some point in time, and your mom was taking care of you, and your dad, as in many people that are family of military people understand their dad is, or mom in the case, they're out, and so. Can you talk a little bit about how that probably impacted you early on?
All right. My father, being gone, he sometimes would forget to send us support. So we learned how to survive. And one of the ways we did was we had an apple tree. We harvested apples, and we had chickens and other things to help us get by. And the other thing is, I became, as they would call it, a bottom feeder. In other words, I would find treasures. I would find treasures out there for near nothing, and then cycle them and help support the family. And there were some very tough times. That one of the toughest that I'll never forget is sitting in a classroom at lunchtime, because I didn't have the quarter to pay for lunch, nor did I have the food to eat. And that's tough when you're in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And but it helps shape your life. It helps you become who you are. Those things, and you become very thankful of everything.
You also mentioned you're a bit of an introvert.
Yes.
In the fact that you really are shy around other people. So the fact that you were out there, Dan, and finding things that you saw beauty in things that other people no longer saw, had value in, which is, to me, is I think the revelation, the first sign of that you had a gift.
Yes, indeed. I certainly did see beauty in things. It's I rely very much on vision, and I also am very sensitive. And when I find something, I can hold it in my hand and feel the presence of its history.
Hmm.
It's strange. Or it could be something that once belonged to somebody that was meaningful. I can almost visualize its whole story. And there is the pleasure in finding treasure. That rhymed.
So that, I mean, and you know, what's great about that is also you were able to, in some ways, to contribute to the family, to help your probably your own situation as well. But you were finding out how to solve problems. You mentioned you like to
Yes.
solve problems, so that was a way early on that you were trying to solve a problem.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, something happened, I would say about 10 years ago. I was working for Thornton's. And at Thornton's, that's a gas convenience store, um, they would, I would design these posters for them, and we would change them for every event that might occur, or season, seasonal event, such as back to school or that type of thing. Well, I realized, I said, you know what? These people, they it's a convenience store. They're in a hurry. They want in and they want out. So why don't we create artwork that is that shares that same concept? I said, let's put a price, a product on our displays. And that way, person can glance at it and continue walking. And it changed everything.
Hmm.
And they started doing that. And the biggest competitor that Thornton's had was BP. And guess what? They started doing that too. They started doing the very same thing, and it's really neat. It's really neat. And the study of um, I took courses in understanding human behavior, and I simply applied that towards the art, and voila.
Wow. Well, and we're gonna talk about that part of your career, and but we haven't even got to Austin Peay yet. I'm wondering, at some point in your childhood development, did you have, I mean, besides being able to locate treasure and being able to
Uh,
make value out of, again, was there some time where you felt like, you know what, I can produce art. I have talent to where I can draw, I could paint, I could do those kind of things.
it was in grade school. I think I was in ninth grade, and I was forced to take an art class.
Thankfully.
But I realized, well, this is easy. And my teacher was going, "Who taught you how to do this?" I don't know. I'm just drawing. I'm just doing what. And strangely enough, I went from drawing stick figures to true figures and true portraits and stuff like that. It just came. And my thinking is that it's either genetic,
Hmm.
whatever. And but it has been an absolute pleasure.
Hmm. So you find that talent, but how did you get to Austin Peay?
It was very interesting. I worked in a prep program that was at Fort Campbell. GIs that were having difficulty learning and doing and following the rules and such, they were in a prep program that was designed to help teach them how to become better soldiers, if you will, and more attuned to what's going on around them. And I got a job uh, painting some rooms and such, and window panes and such. And this fella, his name was John Muster, who ran that program, saw how detailed I painted everything. And then he said, "Could you do me a favor? Could you paint a mural for me?" And you're going to laugh at this. The mural was in the men's restroom. You know why? Everybody was drawing in the men's restroom. They're, writing things.
Of course.
But a mural in the restroom, they wouldn't touch it.
They would
And
defame
that's
that.
exactly what I did. And then from there, John Muster said, I I want you to get involved with the place I work, which is Austin Peay. And I used to go over there and visit, and he helped me get started going to the university. And I ended up acquiring assistance from the school. Because I didn't have much money, I worked in an area where basically I got to borrow money from the support group and pay for my schooling. And then I would do various jobs and bring the money back until it was all paid for. And I kept doing this over and over. And before too long, by the time I was done, I didn't owe a penny.
Wow.
It was wonderful.
That sounds like it was meant to be.
Yes, indeed, it was. And it changed my life. And
So at that point, were you thinking, okay, I'm going to do art, or were you in another, did you think that you had to do something else?
No, I knew that I wasn't going to make it as just a general artist that had to sell their work because I was too shy. So I said, perhaps the best thing for me to do is to become a graphic designer. And that's what I did.
Okay.
And I got a job quite easily as a graphic designer.
So during that period of time, that's a classic period of time. I wish I'd known him. You must have had, and I know you did. You had some great experiences studying under the great and legendary Olin Bryant.
Oh, absolutely. He is a legend to me, and he gave me mental support. He helped me gain the courage and taught me that it's not that difficult to create works of art. It's just, it can be rather tedious, but it's not that difficult.
Huh.
Don't think of the finished piece, think of the process and play, have fun with it. And that's wonderful to me. And so that's how I pursue my work when I draw. It's like I'm playing and having a good time at it. I'm not stressed out about it. I am relaxed. And the ideal way artist growing is to slow the brain down to the point where everything seems like slow motion. And then you begin to come into almost a Zen state where you can see the pencil going across the paper twice the size it actually is. And that is really what you want to look for.
Now that you've explained this to this non-artist setting here, I almost have confidence I could do something, but
you can. Yes.
Well, I appreciate that confidence in me, Dan, but I'll leave that to talented people like you. You also had the opportunity to work on the Green Man, also known as the Sentinel,
Yes.
which is located. I mean, it is part of Austin Peay history because everybody, I mean, when kids come here, they're all going to see it.
Yes. What an honor that was. And we had to build it out of plasticine and newspaper. I didn't know that you could just shove newspaper and create a shape, basically, and cover it with a modest layer of plasticine or clay, and create this giant work of art. Is really wonderful. And you would think that something like that would be extremely heavy, but it wasn't. And because it was mostly paper and sticks and stuff, it's really neat. I learned a great deal from Olin.
Well, and from the people I've met since I've been here for 2 years, they often talk not only about his influence as an artist upon their development, but also, as you have said, as a person. He cared about each person,
Absolutely.
and whether or not they had, for instance, enough money to pay the
Yes.
bills, or
Yes.
how they, how they mentally, as you had talked about, how they were getting through the rest of their time, all their classes. And that to me says that, he is what an educator, that's the ideal educator to me.
Indeed. Yes. Absolutely. He he is the model of a true education master. He he. I don't know what else to say. I mean, he was just the person that we should all strive to be, in my opinion, because he was generous, giving, thoughtful, you know, the works.
So Dan, you at some point, and I'm trying to figure this out, you took time out because you had sort of a religious experience where you became a postulant here. And so that meant for you, you gave away all your your worldly items except
I
for
I
your
gave
guitar, you
I,
said.
I gave away everything I owned because I was becoming a monk and a Catholic monk, and I wasn't allowed to walk in with stuff. They said, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to show that you want to do this. You need to let go of everything you have, and then you can come in. And strangely enough, the one thing they let me have was my guitar. I don't know why. They let me have a guitar.
Well, guitar can stay.
The guitar can stay. And as it turned out, I used that guitar to do music for everyone, and religious music, and it was really beautiful. And I remember the times when I had the most beautiful moments where I was at a particular part of the day, like noon. You could take an hour, and do what you want to do. And I would go to a place where there was a overpass and there was a small stream that was underneath the overpass. And I would go and I would feed the fish every day. And the fish got used to me. And they would come up to the surface when I reached over and kind of dropped crumbs and whatever I could find. Those were very beautiful days. And here I am doing this in a habit. I'm wearing a habit,
So
eating fish.
and so I'm wondering, how did you find your way? How did you end up finding your way back to Austin Peay?
What happened was I was doing programs for the church, and they saw that the artistry in it was very unique. And somebody at a print shop where I was getting them produced said, you need to go back to school. There's not many people that can do the work that you do. So you need to go and finish your degree. And I did. I got inspired. And guess what? I got almost straight A's. I mean, I was so inspired. I was so excited about going back to Austin Peay.
That's awesome. And, I hope that our students that listen to these podcasts understand that sometimes it's okay to take a break, like you did,
Yeah,
and that you came back and as you said, with a different maybe mental focus or whatever you had, and
absolutely, absolutely. And yes, I grew, honest, in a very good way, and I really, really became excited about becoming an artist. And I applied the same type of work that I learned in the monastery of how to get things done, and it was so joyful.
well, I think that it shows that we become a culmination of all the things that we experience.
That's right.
And education is one of, but we have so much personal growth that happened along the way, is that ends up impacting the person that we become. And it's another thing that people our age, we find out after looking back after all these days.
Austin Peay gave me confidence. It did. The teachers, Marilyn Zimmerman, there's so many different instructors. They built my confidence. And then they taught me how to apply my gifts. And I did. And one of the biggest things I've ever done, and I don't know if I should mention it or not, but I designed the red and white bars of Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's worldwide. And you know, I simply looked at the bucket, and I took the bucket and laid it flat basically in my mind, and then moved those bars together. And sure enough, I had what became their logo. And I'll never forget this. I asked a friend of mine that was walking down the hall in the agency I was working at, and I said, "What do you think of when you see this?" KFCY. And that's how that happened.
Boom.
That's how it is. And I'm telling all you students that you can find success and you can create things that you are proud of. And I am very proud of.
So when you were working in graphic design for those years, Dan, in which, again, I mean, I keep reflecting back to you finding treasure out of things that people didn't have value in, and probably that's another example of something. But so you're working and you're making art that benefits other people, and but were you also continuing to work on your own things, painting, drawing, things like that?
Mostly drawing. I was not so much the painter as I really should have been, because I later found out that I can paint pretty well. But at the time, through school, I didn't have confidence in myself. And so I didn't paint that much. But I kept pushing forward. And sure enough, I began to realize I can paint, and I'm doing it. And I'm really enjoying painting a lot and drawing.
Well, the other part of your career that I want to explore a little bit is you mentioned Thornton's, your time there, and the fact that, and I'm not sure who the person was that you had mentioned, but the fact that this person allowed you to help contribute to where you felt like you were part of the process. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the person that really stood out when I was working at Thornton's was James Thornton, the person who created it. He saw something in me that he felt was unique. And he and I became very good friends. I was one of very few people that got to go to his house and look at his fine art. And he knew I enjoyed art and the history of art. And he knew he could talk to me. And we would go to lunch together and just be wonderful friends. And I know he wanted me to climb the ladder, but I really enjoyed doing what I was doing. Instead of running the show, I liked getting my hands into things and working and solving problems and design problems. And he was absolutely wonderful. He was a wonderful person. I have been lucky in my life. I have met some great, unique people that have shaped my life. And you know, when you go to school and you see all of the professors and such, as long as they're not on autopilot and that can really talk to you and reach out to you, that's where it all happens. That's where you begin to grow inside.
Wow. You know, the other thing I wanted to talk to a little bit about is that as you have now been a retired person, about looking back upon your career and thinking, about the jobs you select and the ones you don't select, and sometimes are just as important about why and how you prioritize things within your life,
Right.
whether or not you think money's the most important thing, status is important, which I know those things are, are not as important to you as having satisfaction in
Yes,
what you do.
that's right. I at Thornton's, I was approached to become a manager, to manage the art department. And I I said, look, I I love to actually do the work. I don't want to stand over everyone and point and go to meetings and such. I want to get my hands on the projects and really, really make things happen that way. And I said, I understand my gifts, but I also understand that you have certain limitations that's in certain areas that that are not as easy to accomplish. So you either have to work real, real hard to accomplish them, or you have to realize that may not be where I belong. And understanding that really helps develop who you later become.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets.
That's perfectly said. And I hope that people understand that that's, in a way, again, how to approach life, and rather than just whether or not you're after a particular job and whether that's going to define who you are as a
Yes,
person.
yes.
I'm so glad you said that. Now, you and I met because you came back to Clarksville. You have connections. You have brother Ivan and sister
Yes,
Cindy.
yes.
Now you may have other siblings here. I don't, but
No,
those two I got to meet, which
yes.
I knew Cindy and I met Ivan before.
Mhm.
You are still, as I said, still making and producing art. Can you, and you shared with me one other project that you just you were commissioned for. You had this great opportunity. Can you tell everybody about that?
Yes. I have been doing these um, fiberglass horses. They're called, they were part of a Gallapalooza program here. And what it is people would create art on these fiberglass horses, and they would be sold, and the money would go to the city to help beautify and improve the city. Well, fortunately for me, I've had some wonderful designs happen, and of which some of them were on the cover and all. And I developed, I guess, a reputation working on the horses, uh, that when a particular project came up, my name was brought up to be the person to talk to. And I there's a person that lives in Texas who has basically donated money towards the Gallapalooza program, and she invited me to design a horse for the Alamo. The Alamo? Are you kidding me? I, I'm designing a horse for the Alamo, and the beautiful thing is that that horse is going to be a legacy because it's going to stay there, and people that visit are going to see it,
Yeah.
and it it warms my heart. And Shannon, I cannot thank you enough for this great, great, beautiful opportunity that you have presented to me. And I I believe the horse, I have just completed it, and I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it because it honors the 15 Kentucky volunteers that went to the Alamo and unfortunately lost their lives there. I've got all their names on the horse. I've got images of what I thought they looked like on the reverse side of the horse. And I have a bit of a story that's told about these wonderful volunteers.
That is awesome. And you showed me some early pictures of it while you were still working on it, and it is one of those things that will be when people see it, they're gonna want to talk about it.
Yes,
And that's I think the purpose of that of why they asked you to do that.
yes, indeed. And I when I sent one completed side, which had both the Kentucky and the Texas flag overlapping each other, and the names, and then the Alamo itself, a close up of it, she just went, wow, wow. And when you get a wow from somebody who's commissioned you, you know you're on the right track.
That's right. I'm sure that's good. A wow from me, maybe not so great, but a wow from them, I'm sure that means a lot.
It does.
Dan,
And
I appreciate all that you shared about your career, your story so far. We always like to end on what kind of recommendations you might have for a student.
I think that students should gather everything that they can possibly gather from their experience at the university. Look for solutions, look for inspiration, find it and apply it to your life. And you're going to find that you're going to change your life and you're going to make your life better. And you're going to find that you are eventually going to show others how it's done. And that is what I think that students should really, really work towards.
Wow. Well said, Dan. And I would say I did not know him, but I'm sure if Owen Bryant were still on campus, he'd be very proud of the person that
I
you
got,
turned out to be.
I
An
got chills.
investment well worth it.
I got chills all over me. And I thank you so much.
Why, it's been my pleasure, and it was an honor to meet you on the Art Walk. I look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it myself. Thank
And
you
thanks
so
to
much.
all of our listeners and viewers out there for tuning in to not only this podcast, but following us along the way. We hope that you will continue to join us as we profile some of the outstanding alumni we have here in the College of Arts and Letters at Austin Peay State University. So until next time, stay safe, take care, and God bless.